Good afternoon and welcome to this Lunch and Learn, which is brought to you by family partners of Morris and Sussex counties. This is your host, Patricia Houston, and I'm here with our special guest, Paul Cecala. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you.
So nice to have you here.
I am so excited to be here and talk about our men's support group, our dad support group. It's been a real blessing in my life and the life of my husband, actually. So we're glad to be here.
Awesome. So Paul is the one hosting the virtual support group right now, and Paul is Chief Career Navigator and Global Career Development. So Paul, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Sure. Professionally, I'm a certified career coach. And what that means is I help people figure out what do they want to be when they grow up, and then how do you find that job? So I'm an expert at project planning, your job search, interview skills, networking skills, resume writing, all of the things that go into finding a job. But it also makes me a really good facilitator and listener. And so Family Partners has asked if I would kind of be the host for the dad support group. And I've been happy to do that since I've been a founding member of the group over a year and a half ago.
Awesome. That's great to hear that. And what exactly is the virtual support group?
Yeah, so we've called it the Hero Huddle in the past. And the idea is just for dads who've got kids that are difficult to manage to come together and in a safe place where we can open ourselves up and share, just talk about whatever is on our minds, in particular as it relates to what's happening with our kids. But, you know, oftentimes our jobs impact on how we relate to our kids, or our other family relationships impact on how we relate to our kids. And so it's a place for us to just come together and share what's happening in our lives, celebrate the things that are great that are going on, hold each other up and be an emotional support for the things that are maybe not going so well. And also to kind of, you know, bant things around and say, well, how do you deal with this? Well, how do you deal with that? And come up with some best practices of ways that we can maybe be better dads for our kids.
Awesome. That's great to know. Paul, what are some of the challenges that you hear from caregivers for dads or male caregivers in general? Why they don't join a support group, or why it's so hard for them to join a support group?
Well, you know, I think there's still a lot of the, you know, male macho image thing that to do something like this is to be more vulnerable. And there's truth to that. We are opening ourselves up and we are being a little vulnerable. But in the end, what we're gaining is so much more and so much better and makes us better people that it's worth taking the time to do that. And so I really encourage everybody that I talk to join the support group. We have, as a family, believed in the value of therapy. And while this group is not a therapeutic group, because it's just a bunch of guys who get together and none of us are trained in therapy, but we believe in the value of being able to talk to each other and find ways to be better communicators and use that to become a better person, and in particular, in this case, become a better dad.
Awesome. That's good to know. Is this a traditional support group?
I guess it depends on what's your definition of traditional support group. You know, as I said, we are not a therapeutic group, right? So in that sense, we're not traditional. But are we a great place to get together and kind of hang with the guys for an hour and be able to talk about the things you may not be able to talk about with some of your other friends? Yeah, then that's what we are, and that's what we do for each other.
Yeah, and that's good to clarify, because I think when people hear about the support group, the perception might be different. So that's why I want you to clarify that. That's good to know. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. At what time do you guys meet? Every day, or what time in day that you guys meet?
I'm sorry. Oh, when do we meet? So right now the group is meeting Wednesday evenings from 7 to 8 p.m. We do meet virtually on Zoom. In fact, we've got some members from New York and we've had a member from Connecticut. We've got some folks from different parts of New Jersey. But the core folks tend to be from Morris and Sussex County because Family Partners is the primary referral source. But and they sponsor the group. But we don't care where you're from, as long as you can get into Zoom and be willing to sit and visit with us and share with us. That's what we care about.
And actually, we had a discussion about, when someone invite a dad or a male caregiver to a support group, do you have any idea how someone can approach, let's say, inviting their spouse or their significant other to a support group so that person know that it's okay to be part of a support group?
Yep. As a member of the group, it's much easier to invite someone to join because you can share that personal experience like I am now of what value I get out of the group, and allay those concerns or fears of why it's not going to be the thing that you think is, therapeutic or whatever that would prevent you from wanting to be a part of it. So for people who are not members of the group, I think what I would say is that if you're having trouble or frustration with how you're raising your kid and how you're responding to your kid, and you want to find a different and new way of doing that, here are guys that are going through probably a lot of the same things you're going through that are willing to talk about it and share their experiences with you. So come check us out. There's no need to participate. We prefer that people turn their cameras on because it's easier to relate to each other. But do we require it? Absolutely not. Have we had guys that either forever or 1 or 2 sessions decided they can't turn their phone on? That's fine. I'm sorry, their camera on. Do you need to talk? No, you don't need to talk. We're going to certainly invite you to share and at least introduce yourself, but you can just be there and hang out with us for the hour. And then, when you're comfortable, you're welcome to say hello and talk.
Awesome. And I know that you already touched basics on that, but I want to go back a little bit to this question. How males and caregivers in general, especially males, can benefit attending a support group? Because I know like sometimes some families struggle, but they might not have the initiative to attend to a support group because probably there's stigma out there, or probably they feel like, oh, I don't need support or anything like that. So how do you think a male or a dad can benefit from that?
So I'm going to give you 2 examples. They are probably examples of, I'll in quotes say, worst case kind of scenarios. So I don't want you to think that this is the typical, but there's one dad who's been a long time participant in the group, who has a 3, now 4-year-old daughter. And his marriage was on the rocks because neither of them were getting sleep because his daughter would not sleep through the night. And in sharing with us some of those frustrations and some of the difficulties that they were having, the other parents and the other dads in the group were able to say, hey, have you tried this? Maybe look at doing that. In a couple of places, we said, look, you've got to just stop letting your daughter in your bed. No matter how hard it is, your daughter needs to sleep in her bed, not in your bed. And when he started to implement some of those things and was able to talk a little bit about some of the difficulties he was having with his relationship with his wife, and we were able to offer some different perspective as well as other ways of approaching the conversations. It's been a year and his daughter is pretty much sleeping through the night in her own bed. The mom and dad are both getting a good night's sleep now, And that in itself has allowed their relationship to improve. But he's also been able to change up some of the ways he approaches conversations with her. And so that's helped their relationship to improve. And they're in a much better space than they were a year ago. Has he had outside therapy? Yes. Have there been other, supports provided? Absolutely. But he has said the guidance and suggestions that he's gotten from our group have probably been some of the things that have been the most helpful in him changing that relationship. Another gentleman is going through a messy divorce. And more often than not, he just needs to be able to have a place where he can vent and say, this is what's going on. And all he wants from us is to say, oh man, that really sucks. Let us know if we can be there for you. What can we do to help you? In a couple of cases, he's asked us for some advice and guidance, and different ones of us have given our opinions on things, and that's helped him. But for the most part, he just has nowhere else in his life where he can say, I need just to let this out. Let me talk. And he does, and he feels better when he's done talking. And we're happy to be the ear to listen to it for him. Is that helpful?
Of course, and that's another thing, because I was talking with David earlier, and when we were talking, I was mentioning to David, like, if someone approach you and ask you, hey David, let's join the support group, what is your perception the first thing when somebody approach you to a support group? Like, what is it exactly? Why do you feel like why caregivers is hard for them to join a group?
And maybe, part of it is to change the conversation and not talk about it as a support group, but talk about it as a networking group or a group of friends that are coming together, just to and have a chance to just chat with each other without the distractions of anything else and anyone else in life.
Thank you. David, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's exactly the point that you should be looking at. I am in a different position than most other men, that I've been the primary caregiver at home for a while. And there aren't any other people that I can really talk to normally who have the same role. And there's no one you can talk to and explain what you're doing, what it's like to be the only man at the schoolyard picking up your kid, except the occasional father who's home for the day and obviously doing something else, and it's just an occasional trip. And the one thing I've learned, though, is as my old son got older and he joined a Boy Scout troop, the fathers there is one group where you can do that. And they're all facing very similar problems with their kids, because we're all going through the exact same thing. And there's a group of parents who are just a little bit old, who have kids a little bit older than mine. And it's just so nice to have them say, that's what my kid was like when he was 10 or 12. And look at them now, they're in high school, they're doing well, and everything's going on. Just hearing that ability of knowing that your kids are going to have a chance to come out and be better off at the end of the time that you've been working with them. It's just really important to have that. And it's not anything unusual. It's just something that's not often there for most fathers.
Well, and I think in general, this is the case, but especially for us men, and why, I don't know. But we do feel like we are alone. We do feel like nobody else is going through what we're going through. And yet the truth is, everyone is going through the same exact thing that we're going through. All right, there's a minor twist that's slightly different, but in the end, the root issue is the same for all of us. And if we would just put aside all of those fears or concerns about being weird or different and talk about some of this stuff, we'd all realize that there's nothing new. We're not reinventing the wheel here. And we just need to have somebody else to tell us what the wheel looks like so we can get through it.
Yes. I think it's so important, especially to have someone there that you can just talk, like, because like you say, Paul, you just guys meet in there, discuss challenges, real life stuff. Dexter, what are your thoughts on that?
I can agree with everything that was said, but I think that providing the men a space to actually feel like they aren't alone, a space where they could vent and not feel judged. I think that's very important, right? I think men in general, they might have the attitudes of trying to put up a front or just make it seem like everything is all right. I think giving them a safe space where they can express their emotions, express their anger, whatever the case may be. I just think it's important for them to have a space to actually feel safe and feel comfortable and really get stuff off their chest and not feel judged, more importantly.
You're so right, Dexter. That I think is one of the things that has been the greatest value for the people who have participated in this group, is that they always walk away feeling like they are not judged, and they are supported in whatever they're saying, whatever they're thinking, whatever they're feeling, and that whatever that is, it's not only okay, but to use a bad term, it's normal. And David, like you, I'm a stay-at-home dad, right? So there are more of us out there, and it's a matter of where do we go to find the others that we can commiserate with, because we all need somebody we want to commiserate with.
Actually, David, now that you mentioned, can you please share with us a little bit about your background and how you ended up with us? Because I want families to see that, we are here as a community, and it is okay. We are here for you guys. You don't have to feel alone. And if you are struggling or you're going through, hard time, you can reach out for support, and it's okay. So David, can you please go elaborate on that?
Sure. I was for like the first 8 years of my children's life, we were a very traditional family. I was at work. I was a lawyer who worked in the city, and I commuted back and forth from New Jersey. And my wife was at home with the kids, and she bore the brunt of all of the trouble that the kids were getting into and anything that happened. And then after a series of events, my work was very stressful. I decided I didn't want to do it anymore. And I came home, became the caregiver at home. My wife went back to work. And since then, I've been with the kids. I've gone back at night. I've gone and gotten another degree. And I just decided that that's not what I want to be doing. I enjoyed being at home with the kids, and I enjoyed the experience of being with the kids and in the community. And so I've decided that for now, what I really want to do is help other families. And this is partially a result of the fact that my wife's father died a couple of years ago. And I've had the opportunity to get to know her mother and her sister, and they've had troubles over the years with different things in their family. And I've helped her move out of the house that they've been in for 50 years and into a house near ours. So we now have family support around us here. And just the ability to see the change in her life from having lived in the place she had in the past to a nice new life in a new house, and actually getting to finally meet her grandchildren has been a rewarding experience. And just being able to see something like that and the improvement in everybody's lives has been good. And that's what I want to help other people have.
Great. Thank you very much.
Richard, or David, sorry. I was working with a client as a career coach a while back. He was a partner at a very, very big, very, very successful New York City law firm. And at 67 years old, he finally decided, as the managing director, he needed to change, because he was literally ready to go jump out the 25th floor window of his office. And so we did some career investigation, and he changed careers completely, sold out of the law firm, became truly became a fine artist, a painter. He said a year later that then he, for the first time in his life, got to know and understand his grandchildren. Worse or better, for the first time in his life, he got to know his own children. And I think it's really sad that we feel pigeonholed into such positions and norms that we don't allow ourselves to do the things like you're doing to become or to get to know our kids the way that you're getting to know yours, to get to know your parents and your in-laws the way you're getting to know them, and to create the family bonds that otherwise would not be there. So I think it's amazing and fantastic that you're trying to make that change and doing what you are to become a different person and still find ways to provide for the family, whether it's your wife bringing in the money or you bringing in the money in a different way, doesn't matter, right? We're providing for our family, not just financially now, but also emotionally and physically and mentally. And you're doing amazing things. That's fantastic to see. Congratulations.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
And that's the reason that we are having this discussion, because obviously we see like sometimes a family they're having challenges, and I think to you raising a child or children, especially children or children with challenges in general, you have to collaborate as caregivers together. You are not alone. You have to work as a team. And like you said, it doesn't matter who is bringing the money in the house, but you have to do the job. And the only way that we can go through those moments is working in collaboration. Go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
No, I just was agreeing with you.
Okay, thank you. I know that we also have Mindy in here, and also I would like to talk because like sometimes let's say like if you had to invite your spouse to a support group, Mindy, do you have an idea that you can give her, that let's say like if they had to invite their spouse or significant other, how do you think they can approach their spouse to?
And I think it would be really important to let him know that it doesn't have to be a serious sharing of feelings all the time. I think that is intimidating and would keep people away. I think it's important to let them know that it can be fun and just conversation. And through that conversation, getting to know people, and then, it keeps you coming back to that group. Rewarding to have a conversation with people who have a shared interest. So I think just letting them know that it doesn't have to be, a serious conversation. It can just be about anything.
And Mindy, some of the people that have come through the group have been basically told by their wife, you either do this or we're done, right? And I would not recommend that to anyone. However,
sound like a good strategy.
no, but
Yeah.
those guys, okay, I'm here just to shut my wife up. Great, you can say that to us and it's okay, right? They ended up being the ones that typically have gotten the most out of the group, because they at least were willing to show up that first time. And when they saw that we're just a bunch of fun guys having a good time, laughing and crying and sharing stories with each other, it's like, wow, this is cool. I can do this. I want to do this. And they come back and they come back again. And people do come and go. It's not like you're committing to anything when you join the group. You show up one time and that's it. Hey, fine, happy, glad you were here. You want to show up every week? Beautiful. We're happy to have you show up every week. There have been weeks when we've had 8 and 10 guys on the call, and there have been weeks when it's been me and my husband and no one else. So, it doesn't matter. It's just be there when you need to be there, say what you need to say, listen when you need to listen, and take from it what you can. That's all we want.
And Paul, I'm glad that you're clarifying that, because another perception is that, let's say, like if you're joining a support group, that you have to be there, like for instance, every Wednesday, you have to be there no matter what. So at least it's good to know that, like you just go there when you have the chance and just be part of it.
One of the gentlemen, and he's actually got an older kid, she's a young adult at this point, 24 or something like that. But he participates in a bunch of different groups and evening activities. And so he can only make it to our group every third week, I think it is. And so every third week, we see Charles and we say hi, and he says hi and he catches us up on what's happened in his life in the last 3 weeks, and we catch him up on what's happened in our lives. And in the end, we all walk away better for it. We have another gentleman who works in Manhattan, but has to go to Philadelphia twice a month. And typically it's been working out that the days he's in Philadelphia are Wednesdays. And so he's not getting back home until almost 8:30, 9 o'clock. So he can't be on the group on those Wednesdays. Doesn't matter. When he's there, and we're happy for it.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Paul, because one of the challenges that we were discussing, sometimes it's hard for caregivers to join a support group, probably because of the time. Can you identify the challenges that you might think
Initially for a lot of guys, it is just an issue of carving out that hour, and saying, wait a minute, this is important enough that I want to focus on just this, right? And for the whole family to recognize, no, wait a minute, this is important, and dad needs to focus on this for just this 1 hour every night or every week, sorry. But once everybody in the family unit sees the value and sees the change in dad, it becomes really important to everyone that we find a way to carve out that time. But for example, the 3-year-old who's had trouble sleeping, quite often she's in dad's arms when he's on the call. It turns out that for him, the best place to take the call literally is with his laptop on his lap, lying in bed, right? And so she'll pop into the bedroom and lie down next to dad and put her face in his, abdomen, and almost end up falling asleep at that point. But it doesn't matter. He's there, and we're there for him and with him.
That's good that you're sharing that, because sometimes people might judge the dad doesn't want to be involved, but there are other factors that might be interfering as to why probably the dad cannot participate in all the programs out there. Mindy, I have a question for you. Actually, not for you, for everybody in here. We were discussing, actually it was David, I mentioned that. I was talking about self-care for dad. And I think David pointed out something very good. So I would like David to go over on that in relation to self-care. And then I would like Paul to elaborate on that, because I think self-care is important. And sometimes when you are overwhelmed and you have all those challenges out there, you forget about yourself. And I think it's important for you to keep yourself first, So David, would you please go over about?
Sure. I think what you're referring to is, I was saying earlier that a lot of times I've heard that women's groups talk a lot about how to work hard at self-care. And I think it's slightly different for the men, because a lot of the care that we give to our children is actually the fun part. It's the sports teams, it's the activities, and it's a different type of stress on the father, but it's still a good stress. I mean, I've ended up over the years becoming the coach or becoming a leader in each group that my younger son has been in, because I know that I couldn't just drop him off and leave him with the group and know that his behavior would be acceptable each time. But it's given me the chance to have time, and it's time with my son. And it's very different because my wife, like many of the other mothers in the world, end up spending a lot of time taking the calls from school when something goes wrong, when something else happens, and not being there and having to deal with it separately among the rest of their daily schedule. And men also just will, when they need to go do something, often will just go out and go do it and set it up, take the action, and go do what they want to do without having to think twice about, is this self-care, is this not self-care? I want to go do it, I'm going to go do it. If it fits in my schedule, I can line it up. And It's probably not as fair for many mothers out there in the world that men have this advantage, but it is one thing that's easier for men to deal with. But it's, I mean, it would have been much nicer to just drop my kid off at a sporting event or an activity and come back an hour and a half later. It would have been easier for me, and I could have done something that I wanted to do specifically. But I do enjoy being with my kid, and so I don't consider it a negative. And looking at it that way can really help.
And I think that's the key, David, is it's what, what perspective do you take by doing the activity that you're doing, right? It can be a chore to have to be the coach. It can be a chore because you need to be there to make sure that your kid, who is slightly different from everybody else's, is not going to behave the same way as everybody else's. And you need and feel the desire to be that protector to make sure that they get treated appropriately and are given a fair shake at being able to participate in whatever the activity is, right? And so, do I see that as a chore, or do I see that as an opportunity to bond with my son or to bond with my daughter and to be a part of their life in a different way? And so if you're looking at it from that perspective, it's more of self-care. If you're looking at it from the perspective of this is just another chore that I have to be a part of and I don't want to be here, damn it, well, then it's not going to be self-care. Yet we all need to take some opportunity for self-care, which also means, by the way, for example, one of the dads, we've said to him, hey, you need to carve out some time away from your family to do something that you enjoy, because you're so wrapped up in everything that's going on with the family that you're not taking care of yourself. And having been involved in coaching for as long as I have, I also know and understand the value of, healer, you need to heal yourself first, right? So if we're not taking care of ourselves first, doing that self-care, we cannot be good caregivers to the people who depend on us for that care. And so we have to take that time away. We have to be a little selfish at times and do what's important to us, to feed us, to give us the energy to be able to go forward. And I'll just say one other thing related to that. Part of it is also understanding your spouse, whoever is in this with you. Because, for example, my husband and I, we are very much the yin and yang to each other. And thank God for that, because where there are things that he's really good at, like anything engineering and technology related, there are other things that I'm really good at, like the more interpersonal. And if I try and do the computer stuff, it's going to be a real frustration for everybody. And we're all going to go to bed angry that night. Right? But if I let my husband do that, we all go to bed happy. So knowing and understanding where we bring value to the relationship, where we bring strength to the situation, and knowing where we don't and stepping away when we don't, it's really important to the success of the relationship. And so we've had those kinds of conversations in the Hero Huddle to help people to understand how they are maybe inadvertently making their own situation worse, where they could be making it better if they tried this different technique.
Wow, yeah, you just really, really touched something important there. Thank you very much for that. I know the time is flying, definitely it is. Let's go back to, you mentioned at the beginning, but in case it's somebody just watching the video now, so like that they know, let's go back to the day is Wednesday, in our time, Paul?
So we meet every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. And to register, you just need to go to the Family Partners website, and then you'll find where the groups are. And I don't know exactly where that is, but just go to the website. And if you can't find it, send a quick, contact us, email, hey, I want to be a part of the men's group. Where do I go? How do I do it? And we'll be happy to have you come join us.
I just want to remind everyone, Family Partners website is going to be right below the video. And I also going to add a link for the group if someone wants to join. The link is going to be right there. If you guys have any questions, if you go to Family Partners website, the information is in there and you guys can call and someone is going to reach out to you if you have any questions. So please, don't hesitate to look for support just because you don't know who to call. We are here to help. And I want you to know that. Paul, David, and Mindy, thank you very much. But before we leave, any positive word that you can provide to those caregivers out there that are struggling and hearing something positive from you guys?
I think the most important thing that I would love for people to take away from today is you're not alone. There are others out there that are doing the same thing, going through the same thing. And all you need to do is reach out, and we'll be happy to share our experiences, hear about your experiences, and find ways that we can help and support each other.
Thank you. David?
I think the most important thing to think about is things do go on. Everybody will see their families with older children, things keep going. You'll enjoy the rest of the time if you work at it, and keep a positive attitude and think your kids are going to make it and it's going to be good. You just need to hear other people say that and see that their experience have been that way.
Thank you, David. And Mindy?
I would say that a positive message would be that when you're having a really rough day, to try to remember that you might have a good day tomorrow, or that you will eventually have a good day. Sometimes when you're in those spots where it's a difficult time, you think it's going to last forever. And so I think it's important to remember and try to think that it will get better eventually if you keep working on it.
Yes, that's great. And I just want to remind everybody the Family Partners of Morris and Sussex County is here to help and is here to provide support, advocacy, and education, and that you guys are not alone. We are here for you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Look forward to seeing some new folks on the call.
Thank you.